Hi everyone, in this demo I'll use S3 for a static website and use Cloudfront to access S3. I'm also using a Namecheap Domain and DNS, code pipeline to push changes to a GitHub repository. And by the way, I ran into an error and left in code pipeline troubleshooting. It's probably something simple for you, but hey, I'm always learning. So let's get started. We're in the Northern Virginia region, US East 1. Make sure to select that region for this demo. And we're going to go into S3 to create a bucket. So let's go ahead and click on Create Bucket. And we're going to name the bucket. In this case, I'm just using the name of one of my domains. You can do the same or name it, but let's go ahead and leave everything else default. We're going to block public access, so leave that checked. Cloudfront is going to access our bucket. So let's scroll down and click Create Bucket. Now let's go inside the bucket. And we want to go to Properties. And let's scroll all the way down. Click on Edit. So we need to enable static website hosting. So click Enable and enter index.html. So that's the default page. You can also enter error.html if you have that document, but let's go ahead and save those changes. Okay, and if we scroll all the way down, just going to copy this bucket website endpoint to give it a test. So I'm going to paste that in and go. And you can see we blocked access, so it's a 403 forbidden access denied code. Okay, and that's what we're going to work on. But if we go to buckets, we want to upload the HTML document into the bucket, and I don't have one created, so I'm just going to create a simple template. Here's the AWS static website. These are the docs. So just scrolling down to hosting a static website using Amazon S3. You can do the same if you don't have a template. And here we want to click on configuring an index document. So I'm going to scroll down. And just copy this. And I'm using VS Code. You can use your code editor of choice, but let's open a new, and I'm just going to paste that in. So we want to say, yeah, so you can see it's generic. Welcome to my website, now hosting. And we want to save this as the index.html file. So let's go ahead and save this. And we want to upload this to our bucket. So let's go ahead and add the file. Open. Click Upload. Okay, so we have our index.html file in our bucket. And now we need to create a certificate. So go to Certificate Manager. I'm opening this in a new tab. Okay, let's request a certificate. And we want to request a public certificate. That's the only option. And use a qualified domain. In this case, we're going to use the wildcard. So your domain name. Okay, DNS validation, leave that default. Leave algorithm default. Let's click Create. And give this a few minutes, a couple minutes to load up. Okay, so that's pending. So we have to validate it. In this case through Namecheap. So in the seed name, we want to copy that up to the dot before the domain name and go to Advanced DNS and Namecheap, and let's scroll down, and we want to add a new record, which is a CNAME record. So in host, we want to paste that in. Okay, and for the value, let's go back to Certificate Manager, and under CNAME value, we want to copy and paste everything after AWS but before the dot. So let's copy that. Let's go ahead and paste that in the value. And TTL you can leave automatic. I'm just scrolling down and selecting 1 minute. So let's save that change. And let's give this a few minutes for it to update. You can see it's still pending validation. Still pending. Okay, so success. All right, so now we have our certificate. Now let's go into Cloudfront. All right, and in Cloudfront, we want to create our distribution. So this is also a security tool as well. So click in the search bar and let's choose our origin domain. And you can see it automatically populated it into the name bar. All right, we want to click on Legacy Access Identities. In this case, we're going to create a new OAI, Origin Access Identity, and it automatically populated. Click Create. Right, and under Bucket Policy, yes, update the bucket policy. Okay, let's scroll down. No custom header, no origin shield, and just additional settings. We'll leave everything default. And we want to redirect HTTP to HTTPS. And under Allow Methods, we can select the third option. We'll leave that. We'll leave Cache Policy, which is optimized. Scroll down. So Web Application Firewall. I'm not going to enable it for this demo, but you can. And under Edge Locations, you can select all. I'm just using North America and Europe for this demo. Here we want to add in our seed name. I'm going to add in the www dot domain name to cover that as well. So in the wildcard, we did a plain domain or naked. Okay, so here we should automatically have our certificate populated. So click on that. Scroll down, and we want to add our root object. So that's our index.html. And so for the certificate, remember I was saying you have to use USD Swan. There it is right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this Cloudfront distribution. Okay, so we're going to give this some time to deploy. Yeah, and in this case, it took roughly around 10 minutes, plus or minus in your case. So just a heads up. Okay, so our CloudFront distribution is modified. And let's go ahead and copy and paste this endpoint from CloudFront. And let's give this a test. Open up your browser, we'll copy and paste that, and that's our generic website. So it's accessing it from the index.html file. So now if we go to permissions, you can see this was the bucket policy that we checked for the distribution to update. So there it is. Yep, it's allowing CloudFront to access S3 object at our domain. That's through the OAI. So it's a security layer. So we restricted public access to S3, but we're giving CloudFront the ability to access the S3 bucket. So let's go back to Namecheap. We want to add a new CNAME record. So add new record. Here's the www dot. And in the value, we want to paste the CloudFront endpoint and remove the HTTP //. So I'm doing a 1 minute TTL. Let's save that change. And then I'm going to add a second CNAME, which is the plain domain name. Paste in the same CloudFront endpoint and remove HTTPS //. And let's go ahead and save this. So we have the plain domain when you enter that in, and then also the www dot. So let's go ahead and test this out to verify. We also have to give CloudFront time to cache it to the edge location. So just give it a few seconds. I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to type in the www dot to access it, and there we go. We have access to our website, or it's CloudFront is accessing the S3 bucket. You can see it's HTTPS, so it's secure. Okay, now we want to go to code pipeline. So type in code pipeline. I'm opening this in a new tab. And we need to create a pipeline. By the way, I ran into an error, so I just went through and kind of decided to play around with it without looking at any other, tutorial. So, but here, choose template. This is not the actual steps that you'll take, but I wanted to see the different deployment, CI, and automation options. So I'm canceling that. Let's click on Create Pipeline. Okay. So this is basically a trial run through. This is the step that I messed up. So I think around 1750 is the successful pipeline that I created. But here we want to give it a pipeline name. I'm just naming it S3-demo. Okay, and then the queued pipeline. So you see it says that you can no longer create the V1 pipeline through the console, only through the CLI. So the option would be V2, the queued option. Service role, we want to create a new service role that automatically populated. And we're going to allow pipeline to create that service role. No variables. Under advanced setting. So leave those default. Here I'm clicking next. Source provider is via the GitHub app, right? So this is actually the second time that I attempted to connect. The first time was unsuccessful, so I just omitted that to save us time for this demo. But here we want to enter a connection name. Which is actually the name to my GitHub. So here I'm reading, install the connect as a bot, alternatively leave it blank to connect AWS GitHub. So I'm trying to create for the second time, but you can see an error occurred, right? So an unspecified error occurred, check your network connectivity, and then check to see if there's any issues. But as you can see, I'm bypassing that. Okay, so let's second attempt. So that was the connection that it created, but I disregarded the initial setup step or process. So if you're familiar, you know how to do it. If you're new, we're going to go through that. So I'm clicking on info just out of curiosity. So GitHub is obviously a third-party source provider. You connect your source to AWS code connectors. Okay, you don't need to create a host resource. So let's click on working connections, and I'm looking at the docs. So this is what I read. I'm scrolling down. Let's see. So this is part of me troubleshooting. You know, it's probably simple for you, but sometimes I just like going down a path and going through trial and error. Okay, so our topics: create a connection to Bitbucket, to GitHub, GitHub Enterprise Server, GitLab. So let's go to GitHub. Okay, so here's two options: through the console and then through the CLI. Right, but that's the first step. So we needed to create the connection, and it's going to be through the developer tools. Luckily, the docs provide you with everything. So we're going to click on this link. So this is if this is your first time, this is the initial step. So in developer tools, you want to set up. I'm deleting my previous two attempts, what you can see here. I'm deleting that one, and I'll delete the second one. I just like to clean things up. Okay, so now let's create the connection. Yeah, we want to select GitHub and my connection name. Well, info, yep, that's what we read earlier. Okay. Give it my connection name or your GitHub access name. Okay, so let's connect to GitHub. And here we want to click on install a new app. Get automatically populated. Install an authorized AWS connector for GitHub. So you have the option for all the repositories, but I'm going to go with only select repositories for this demo, and you can see the drop down. So it'll pull up all of your repositories that you have in GitHub. I only have 5. So I'm clicking the S3 demo that I created for this demo. Let's initialize that. So log into your GitHub account, enter in the password, and let's confirm it. Okay, so we have the app installation ID, which is a good sign. Let's go ahead and connect. And we're available. So these are the connection options. You can see GitHub Action Self-Hosted Runner, that's for code build. Start Build Your Repositories code build. And then we want to use the Trigger a Release AWS code pipeline. But in the region, I'm going to change that. I'm just going to keep it consistent. I'm using US East 1. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm selecting US East 1, and then let's go ahead and trigger a release. Okay, so this is the third attempt for me creating this pipeline, but let's go for it. So let's give it our name, S3-demo. In the execution mode, it's going to be that second option, the queued parallel. Service role we create, the role name. Let's check AWS to create that service role. And under advanced settings, remember we're going to leave these default. Let's click next. And source provider in the drop down, we want to use the GitHub via the GitHub app. And connection. There we go. That's our connection. The third time is a charm. Patience. Okay, so repository name, is that your S3 bucket or the GitHub repository? Sorry. The default branch, in this case, we want to enter main. So this is also where I ran into an error, which you'll see. Code pipeline as the default. The trigger, there's three options: no filter, specify filter, and do not detect changes. But let's go ahead and click next. Skip build stage. So we're not building pipeline. And here we want to choose S3 as the deploy provider. No input artifacts, or well, it automatically populated the source artifact. Here we want to select our bucket, extract file before deploy, that's our index file, no key encryption, and leave everything default under advanced. And this is the review. So if everything looks good for you, just scrolling down. Okay, let's go ahead and create the pipeline. Okay, so this is in progress. You can see it run in the spinning wheel in the right side. Okay, so this is the first fail. It's never easy for me. I'm clicking on retry failed actions. In my mind, to see what would happen. Okay, so that's the second fail. And then let's look at the metadata. So you can see the retry. It was 1 and 1. So let's retry the stage. And I'm just browsing. Okay, I'm viewing the details. which is awesome. So that's the error message right there, is that I needed to add the main branch to my GitHub repository. It's probably a simple mistake, but hey. So now I need to go back into GitHub, which when I created the repository for this demo, I actually forgot to upload the file. So just let's choose to upload a file and select the index.html. And doing this, we're actually creating the main branch. So let's go ahead and commit those changes. Right, and you can see right there. So this is our main branch. So that was my error. Hey, things happen, so it's success. So now code pipeline is integrated. So it automatically pushed or updated that index.html file from H3 to our GitHub repository. So we can check it. Now let's go ahead and edit. Let's make some changes. If you're in a testing or dev environment, this would obviously be your code, but here this is our simple HTML file. So I'm just making a change to my S3 demo, and I'm just gonna add that as well to the title. And in the body, let's see, demo website using Cloudfront and GitHub. So let's commit these changes. Yes, we want to update the index.html. Let's commit it. So code pipeline should automatically update and push the change. So it's a two-way interaction. That's in progress. So any code changes to your GitHub repository is automatically going to update that index. So it successfully pushed the changes. Yep, that's our source. Okay, and you can see the source and deploy. You can also click on view the details, but let's go ahead and verify. So let's open up our browser, and I'm refreshing. Let's give Cloudfront some time to update the cache. So the challenge is Cloudfront needs a valid path to access the object, but we're going to invalidate that. So let's click on create invalidation, and we're going to invalidate all paths / wildcard to open that up so Cloudfront can access the object. So otherwise, I think you have to go in and manually create the correct path for Cloudfront. But thanks to Piyush for that lesson learned. Appreciate you for all the work that you do, buddy. Okay, so that's completed. Let's go ahead and go back to our web browser and click refresh. And welcome to my S3 demo website using Cloudfront and GitHub. So if you're new, make sure to read up on Cloudfront path objects. And that's it for the demo. Thanks for watching.